Привет из Дубая. С вами передача «ГолубьМира», где мы разбираем крутые навыки. Спрашиваем на английском, отвечаем на русском. Подтягивайте язык или смотрите перевод в тайм-кодах. Let's talk about databases and let's start with the definition.
Database, this is a way how to store information. For example, you have list of your books with small resumes, with some your notes and so on. Maybe you have your phone numbers, maybe you have emails, maybe you have some prescription or subpoenas. Then you need to make or create a table where you could store them. But if this table is going to be big and you will try to select something from it, it will go very smooth, very slow. So you need to use some databases. If you will use enterprise databases, any selection would be very fast and very comfortable for you.
And obviously, humanity was using like the different data sets and maybe even connection with them over the span of their entire history. So, what might be like the different types or purposes of the databases, and how exactly might be the mechanics that used to store, process, and even the fetch the data might be working from the simplest level to something which is more or less sophisticated?
Simplest information is so-called flat tables when you have all information or entire information in the same table. For example, you have addresses or you have names, surnames, and family names. It is easy to extract, but if you have like 50 mil of the rows, it would go very slow. Second way, when you use so-called relative tables. For example, instead of writing each time Maxim, you will use not a Maxim as a string. You will use the number of row in another table which contains just names. And instead of Golub, you will use also just number from another table where you contain family names. In this case, information would be selected like, I don't know, 100 times faster. But the lowest level of databases contains not the data, not the information, but rules or wisdom. For example, so-called expert systems, when you could ask, for example, your medical prescription or about your diagnosis. And this database would ask you some question by voice or by showing some text on the screen, and you will answer a very simple question, and suddenly you will know what to do or what to buy.
Usually when we try to start like a certain project, and we will know that definitely will be a knowledge like a structured and the systematized, that we definitely will need to use it. For example, let's say if you're going to build a theorem, what should we approach into like how do we structure our future data? Or maybe we should do it vice versa. We should think about like what is the goal and then how the data should be structured. So what might be the ways of doing that?
There are, you're quite right. There is two ways. First, you could create a database and then you could optimize it for your task, or you could create a very sophisticated database to use for any type of information. I am an old guy in IT industry. I am always trying to do very optimal database with the smallest pieces. There is a procedure which is called parsing. For example, we have an address string. It could contain type of city, then type of street, then flat, and something else. And a lot of people will put this info in a single cell, but I would make it another way. I think about any data as a molecule. Is it okay to say molecule?
That's correct.
As a molecule, and I would disperse it for very smallest parts for atoms. For example, all this I have already described, I will put in like 11 rows. In this case, you will use it very easily. But if you have some special, very often called procedure or script, maybe it will be working slow because you are attempting to attract information from different sources. In this case, you could create additional rows, artificial rows, where you will have not information you need to store, but information you need to show to someone. For example, I was trying to break YouTube, and I was thinking how to find what is common between videos and comments and some other reactions. And suddenly I realized that I need a special kind of information, not which is presented by YouTube, but which is needed for my task.
which principles we need to apply when it comes to collecting of the data. Let's say, like, like it comes from a different sources. Maybe then we use some sort of like a buckets to store like a raw data, and then like pour it over into the databases. Then like what exactly we need to do, like if we need to maintain it or even like delete it or like clean it. So what should be the principles that we need to be led by?
Nice question, and the answer wouldn't be short. You should use several levels of your data. First is unclean data or data as usual, and there could be dirty information. It could be like duplicates and maybe unrecognizable data. Then you should use some kind or some sort or some batteries of filters. For example, filter for names, for surnames, for family names. This is 3 different filters. Then also up to 6 filters, maybe you should change Maxim Golub or Golub Maxim or some other stuff. So you will use like batteries of these filters, and from the raw data or original database, you will have a so-called clean database, but not completely. And sometimes you will repeat this information because you will improve your filters. So original database is to contain all data which is going in your system. Compile the database to work with your artificial intelligence or some other subtraction procedures. But you also will use some other part of information, for example, like a garbage. For example, you couldn't understand, is it name or this is surname, or maybe this is street, or maybe this is city. So you will put this information aside. You will not use it till you know how to correct it. So you will have like a main database, filters, clean database, garbage, and then you'll have like compile database, then parse database, and then product database. But if you have a product database, then you also need to have like a replic or hot replic. If something will go wrong, you will lose like, I don't know, 1 hour or 1 day of your requests and your answers, but you will still working for your customers.
At the skill of CRM, there was one thing that definitely blew my mind, that CRM is not something which, like will help you to find, like who your customers are, but basically will let you to answer one single question: what, how, and when to sell to a certain person. So obviously, when we think about like serving the data, what should be using like when it comes to like building the models, or maybe like building the dashboards, or maybe even have like a special teams of data analysts or even data scientists to build the data products on top of the data, serve it to the user. So what should be the way of like consuming the data to make decisions?
As you remember, I told you how many databases you will have during your implementation time. And you never could be sure which one you will use for different purposes. And if you work with different teams, sometimes you will go even in dirty database. Sometimes you will dig into dirty part or maybe original ones. So, it's like to build a car. You make it in your garage, and you have your engine, you have some other stuff, and you never clean your hands, and you never could be sure that you have done everything well. Just after you have voiced that, okay, our project is closed, just in this case, you could take out all the unnecessary parts which are not longer in use in your project, but not by erasing them, but to archive them, to put for some time, because a lot of projects will continue after some time of exploitation.
And when it comes to databases, I'm just like trying to maybe go to the one level above it, if it exists, or if you can call it this way. Like, if we imagine like a huge cloud of a different databases of a different types, shapes, and forms. Like, for example, some of the databases like a graphs, some of the databases like just like from the mobile devices, and maybe even they are between different government bodies or even between different countries. So, what might be the possible usage, or what might be the possible framework of like creating the database, or even the information, or even insight, or even wisdom about databases at all, and how it might be like a process and can help to make this world a better place?
If you have not too much databases, you could use direct access. If you have some small amount, you will use so-called AP, application program interface. But if you are working, for example, on international level or wide world level, you will use so-called buses. The bus, this is the substitution. You will ask for some very easy language to extract information from other database or other source in a very easy language, and it will help you not to knowing how to work with this directly. For example, I am working with COBOL, so very old-fashioned language, by the way. Maybe 98% of financial information in the world is processed by COBOL, but no one knows COBOL who are younger, oh no, sorry, years younger than 30 years old. So COBOL people create a lot of buses. You could ask it from other, for example, Rust, Go, or even Python, and it will work maybe not so fast, but quite well. So if you work with different languages, if you work with different countries or governmental bodies, it is better to use buses.
А мы рассмотрели навык базы данных и чем он полезен именно вам. Всем мира!